Welcome, everybody. It is 7 p.m., and I'm going to call the City Council meeting to order. Will you please stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good evening, Cheryl. Will you take roll?
Councilmember Brenda Kinzer.
Present.
Councilmember Jermaine Cornegay.
Present.
Councilmember Chuck Rowland.
Present.
Councilmember Brendan McLaughlin.
Present.
Councilmember Carl DeYoung.
Present.
Councilmember Jared Couch. And Councilmember Glenn Allen.
Present.
Okay. So Councilman Couch called this evening to say that he wouldn't be able to attend, so I'm looking for a motion to dismiss him.
Madam Mayor, I move to excuse Councilman Couch.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. So I have a motion by Councilman DeYoung, seconded by Councilwoman Kinzer. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Approval of the agenda, and you have in front of you, actually three things in front of you. You have the retainer agreement for the city attorney services, and there are two here. One is to approve Weed Grafstra and Associates as the provision of municipal city attorney legal fees, and the other then is to approve Nikki Thompson to be the city's attorney. The other thing that we have in front of us is the check register, so I am looking for those to be included in the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move to add the retainer agreement for city attorney services with Weed, Grafstra, and Associates.
Okay. And the check register, is this a correction, Doug, or what is this?
That was a page that was missing from the original packet.
Okay. All right. All right, to include the page that was missing from the original. Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilman DeYoung, and it's seconded by Councilwoman Cornegay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, the consent agenda, items 1 through 8.
I move to approve consent agenda items 1 through 8.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilwoman Cornegay, seconded by Councilman Owen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We all sound tired tonight. Okay, so we do not have any special guest presentations, so why don't we move on to staff reports?
I've been waiting all afternoon for this. It was a really crappy day today.
Hey, you spent
For
part
those of you that didn't
you spent
see
part of that
it,
day with me.
we had a dump truck load of, let's call it organic dairy fertilizer, dumped in the roundabout at Highway 9 in Jameson. It was just a misfortune that farm truck, the tailgate, something came open on the tailgate. There was a lot. Consider a dump truck, several yards of really good fertilizer. But I think Nathan ended up getting David Davidson to come down there with an excavator. The farmer that lost the load was back there with a shovel trying to scoop this up. That wasn't going to work. But the farmer stayed there and had one of his guys come back to help. And city crews got in there, scooped everything up. We kept traffic at bay. I think the highway from the roundabout to the bridge is going to grow really good grass here at some point this summer. But then the fire department actually came out and hosed off the surface of the road just to kind of get a good clean roundabout there so it's not unsafe. We had a motorcycle go through there right after that, and you could just see the guy's eyes bug out thinking, oh my God. but we got that cleaned up. But it was well done by all that came in and helped. And the other thing, the only other thing I've got, and it's on your dais in front of you, is there's 2 pages that look like this, and this is just the synopsis of the radar car that we've got set out. And I'm going to work out a way with see what Aaron and Doug would like me to do. We can email that to every one of you. It's a 17-page report. I just printed the face sheet of it. But as you can see, we've only printed out the 2 traffic studies. One of them was on Railroad Avenue, and we had a winner on that one at 57 miles an hour. But honestly, the majority of the traffic was at or below the speed limit, but it does give us an idea of where to pinpoint where we need to do radar. We have other traffic concerns, and just because we didn't have many speeders in either one of these areas, it gives us a better idea of how to pinpoint it. So if you'd like the entire report, we can certainly email that, or however they want to present that. There's nothing secret about it. It doesn't give any identifying data about any of the vehicles, but it does give us an idea of the flow. You're talking about during 1 week on Railroad Avenue, the radar unit picked up almost 8,500 cars. And then right below that, it said there was almost 3,700 speeders. That sounds bad, but it's not as bad as it looks. Those could be 1 mile an hour over, 2 miles an hour over. The entire report lays out all the details, the time of day, when the peaks are, and all that too. So I think it's going to have an incredible amount of data, and we're going to move it once a week. It is now sitting on North Reed Street this week. It was on Puget for a while. It was on Railroad, and we got it up. It was on Klinger for a while, and now it's on North Reed Street. And I think we're going to get it out on F&S Grade Road after this. Somebody that lives out there asked if we could put it out in front of his fire, not his fire truck, but his house. But it is one place that it's a constant speeding zone as well. So some really good data in there for you to take a look at, and we'll get you some more information, the whole report. I'd probably just give it to Erin or Christine. She can email it out to your email addresses. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Chief Klinger.
We got to do some fun stuff this last week. They had the unified basketball game there at the high school. I'm sure everybody was aware of what was going on there, but we got invited to a birthday party in Big Lake on Sunday, and we were able to send our crews out there, and they had a really great time, and the young man had a great time too, so that was fun. And then Monday night at the school board meeting, we got a chance to attend and participate with the Skagit County EMS Commission in awarding 13 life-saving awards to teachers and staff out at the high school that assisted in resuscitating one of their staff members during class. So that was really great.
That was really a remarkable story, listening to it. That was impressive. Yeah, the Ron Richards Lifesaver Award.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Is that it? All right. Thank you. John Coleman.
You'll be hearing from me plenty tonight, so I'll spare you any further.
Okay. Mr. Freiberger.
Well, other than the 10 projects I've been reporting on, we have in various stages of design. I did receive the bid plans and specs for our electrical improvements at the wastewater plant on Friday, and I'm checking those. I anticipate we'll have that out to bid in April. It's about a $500,000 project from the estimate, in the ballpark of what we had allowed in our recently completed sewer comp plan. So that's it for tonight, though.
All right. Mr. Berg.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Mr. Merriman.
Just one item. As you may know, we have made an offer of employment to Jill Scott to be our finance manager. She will be able to wrap up her work at United General, where we poached her from, and we'll be starting here on March 9th. Right now, she's trying to get her evening clear for March 4th, where she may come into our workshop, and you'll get an opportunity to meet her and talk with her. So the transition so far is working well. Aaron and I are handing things off and trading a lot of information in that. So it looks like things are going to be pretty seamless. So that's all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you. Mr. Owen?
I have a couple of things. I'm going to be coming around pretty soon, asking everybody for donations for Meals on Wheels for the senior center. Their budget's been cut about $50,000 by the government and county, and they're really hurting right now. So I would ask each department I tackled, if they could, to be generous and help as much as they can. And another thing is, I got a question for Mark. You know, a while back we were having discussions about the intersection of McCargyle and Highway 9. And if I'm not mistaken, you made the comment about cutting the greenery away, you know, facing north, so you could see when you come out there. And my question is how you doing with this project?
We've looked at that. Nathan's in the back, and he can chime in if differs on this. The northwest corner was the one where the large arborvitae trees are. Those have been trimmed back in the past, and we've got them back about as far as we can get them at this time, I think. The southeast corner is the other one that's been trimmed back too. We're getting into the spot where it's on private property to do much more than we've got there, so they're just difficult corners. I will say that we're going to be doing an intersection project there sometime in the next 2 to 3 years, and that'll resolve all of those things when that happens. So,
well, you know, it's really a dangerous intersection if you're going out, you know, and turning south, turning left, and the speed limit is way too fast down through there.
Well, the speed limit's 25.
Well, it should be about 15 in that area, because everybody's doing over 25. I know most everybody, because I've tried to get out, and you just grit your teeth and go for it. You know, you don't know what's coming down the road a little ways. It's a bad intersection. I don't know what the answer is, but something needs to be done. I agree with that. Thank you, Mark.
Edit.
Councilwoman Cornicky?
So I just got a call today about a tagging on a stop sign at Sapp Road and Reed, probably where that goes up to Long Time Lane. Just a stop sign tagging. And also, I wanted to thank you, Mark, and Nathan for cleaning out the culverts on Central Street, North Central Street. Thank you very much. Looks really nice. Another thing is March 7th is the next session for the Skagit Trail building. We go 10 to 4:30 now, and it's a lot further up. We've gotten lots of progress, right, Zoe? And I wanted to welcome and thank the Earth Club from Sedro-Woolley High School and Zoe and friends. And thank you for being here tonight. That's it.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Kinzer?
Well, I didn't have anything but to piggyback on the trail up there at Northern State that is being built. We went out there last weekend, and I was amazed. It's in a beautiful area. Anybody who has the opportunity to go out there and take a little hike, it's just beautiful. Amazing job done on the trail. So I'd encourage people.
Come volunteer on the 7th.
Yeah. I'd encourage people to get out there and check it out.
All right, thank you. Councilman DeYoung.
All right, my voice sounds tired, but I am enthusiastic and energetic for our council meeting. Very excited about the Olmsted Park walkthrough that we had today. Glad we took in some input from the Wildcat Steelhead Club and what they need to do with the parking for their annual event for the Trout Derby on the first weekend of May. Looks like it's going to be a fantastic project. Thanks for taking the lead on that, Nathan. Additionally, Skagit Salmon Enhancement Group is having a planting on the 7th of March, which is Saturday, the 7th from 10 to 1, and there's always good coffee there, and it's a fun group to work with. If you can't make that, come the following week on the 14th back down to Riverfront Park, and I encourage everyone's participation. It's a great volunteering event. Additionally, this is Skagit County FFA week, and so I was wondering if anyone from FFA was here. I don't see Randy or Randy Good or Mr. Ramsey or Miss Bennett or Miss Flores, but good work that they're doing there too, and that's my comments for this meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, just, this is for Mark, kind of, since you brought up Riverfront Park. Has there ever been issues with the intersection at Riverfront Park and River Road, or River Road and Township?
I don't know of any myself, and I assume you're talking about where the utility pole kind of separates the two branches of that.
2 lanes this way.
Yeah,
and 2
it's kind of a
lanes.
goofy intersection, to be sure.
That would be, I was not a fan of roundabouts when they first came in, but if I've ever seen a place that a roundabout might work, that would be, I think, a really good location.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Councilman McGoffin.
I should mention that intersection's actually in Skagit County. So that intersection's actually in Skagit County.
Okay.
Councilman McGoffin.
How do we do it for Birchview?
Go ahead.
That intersection's in the city limits. Yeah, so the city limit line is actually the southern boundary of Dunlop Street.
Okay.
And then it crosses over and is the eastern boundary of Township. So right at that location. So what you see at that intersection is the end of the city limits. And that's why sometimes there's looks like code enforcement issues out there. Those require county assistance, which they've been actually very helpful in recently.
Well, maybe, pass that on to the county, that it might be a good opportunity to put a roundabout.
All right, here we go. Councilman McGoffin.
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay. So I kind of have a lengthy list. First off, I want to thank Nathan and Mr. Freiberger, Julie Rosario for putting together the park presentation, also the port. The port came out and did a presentation earlier this evening. It was from 5 to 6:30. Really heard some great feedback, had some great comments, so thank you for doing that. I also want to thank Nathan's team for the cleanup at the roundabout. Yeah, I received pictures. That was something. And then I want to extend congratulations to the city employees who have helped Sedro-Woolley achieve again the Well City Distinction Award. And this is from the AWC Employee Benefit Trust, and the Well City recognition is for the continued dedication to build a healthy workplace and employee health. And when you achieve this, it's actually a statement that's saying that you value and you support your employees. So it's actually the employees who make it happen, and I want to extend congratulations to them achieving that again. Just a reminder to the council, I've heard back from Councilman McGoffin, but I have not from anybody else regarding the library tours. I did put it out. I think it's been out there a couple weeks now. The 2 dates to choose from, either March 17th, March 17th at 10:30, or March 19th at 2 p.m. And if you could let me know so that we can, that way I know who's coming and how many safety helmets to bring and vests and et cetera, et cetera. We heard back from the state legislature. We had actually requested funding in the capital budget for Memorial Park, and this year our request was not included in the 2020 supplemental capital budget. And also we had, as many of you know, requested funding for the underpass for our East Jones John Liner project. The underpass is significant. It's key to making that happen, as Mr. Freiberger has shared with us on multiple occasions. I did hear from Senator Wagner, who said that he didn't think it was coming, but then I heard from Representative Eslick that it's not over till it's over, and they were voting today at 3, but I didn't hear anything. Did anybody hear anything? Nothing? Okay. So I guess more to come on that, and we'll still hope for the best. And then just one last thing. I think I mentioned this last time, I'm not sure, but Community Action is they're featuring Ryan Dowd. He does homeless training, how to interact with the homeless. I've been online and checked him out. He's got some great materials, and it's really fascinating. This particular one is $70 to register. It's for the whole day. It'll be at the Swinomish. It's on March 25th. But I wanted to let the public know that up in Ferndale, they are doing a half day. It's a free presentation, and he will be there, and he will be talking much about what he's going to be talking about on the 25th. So this one is March 25th, but the one up in Ferndale is March 24th, just the day before, and it's from 9 to 1. Yeah. I can forward you information on that if you'd like. Okay. And that is all I have for now. It is 7:21, and I am going to open up public comment. I ask that if you come forward, that you keep it to 3 minutes, and please state your name and your address.
Frank Allen Bresnan Sr., 1004 McGargow Road, Sedro-Woolley, Washington. I've had meetings with different people, Phil Brockman and Chet. They run the school bus garage and the school district, and they have a real problem with the bus drivers trying to get out of McGargow on the west side going north and south because the trees, you cannot trim them. They've got to come down. And the reason I say that is I noticed trees not marked or cut down yet, or down on Highway 9 north and southbound. Nothing has been done. My life and family and Sedro-Woolley residents, we are fearing for our lives. We're scared for our lives. You have to violate the law to get onto Highway 9 westbound to go east and north. And it is serious. Chuck didn't know all the particulars, but I didn't give him a ahead of time thing on it to explain it to Mark. But this needs to be done. I've been 5 months trying to do this stuff. Next one. And these are not threats. I will file a class action lawsuit, my health and stress, to leave my property and try to return to my home. I feel we, the citizens, are not safe to drive 9 to McGargow West, and then I feel I'm a prisoner to get off my driveway to go on to McGargow to get at those certain times a day. I take my wife, I'm not exaggerating this stuff, but sometimes it's right in the inconvenience time when these buses are stopped at the Boys and Girls Club and they're coming in to pick up their kids out of town. We've got Woodby Island, Oak Harbor, LaConner, the whole Skagit Valley that comes there for these special classes and stuff. And then I would like answers in writing in 7 working days, if that's the law. I don't know what the law is, Brian. Brian.
Aaron, are you
to
talking?
Make this come into force
actually,
instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, we'll look at it."
So actually, you're addressing the council. You don't talk to the staff.
Oh, you don't?
No, you talk
I'm
to.
learning.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. I want answers in writing, 7 working days notice. Thank you. And did I leave anything out, Chuck, on this? Do I need to put anything more in it? But I'd like to get some answers. 7 working days should be enough. We have internet, we have emails, we have Call Olympia. I've called them. I've been in sessions with DOT, and they're going to step in. And then I had one thing.
Okay, you're almost out of time. So.
Okay. What are we going to do with Carter Road?
Okay. So again, you talk to the council. You don't talk to the staff. Yes.
What are we going to do with Carter Road? The road is so bad, it had water in this big water problem we had in this last month. And everybody's using it. The neighbors are all complaining. I can get them to sign documents. It needs to be fixed. Sidewalks, storm drains. We need to quit buying vehicles. We're not fixing anything in this town. Plus Puget Street to come to Ferry Street. We're going to have the parades. We're going to have out-of-town people. Highway 20 is going to open up. We need bigger signs out there to promote it, to make more money. You can't see these little 2-foot by 3-foot signs. you're doing 45 miles an hour coming down there. Out-of-town people, we want their business. We want to bring in some, whatever you call it, to make money. I can't see the sign that says, oh, rodeo down there. Well, we moved it down there, and it shouldn't be down there. It should be up here.
Okay, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
At least you know what I'm talking about.
We do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Yes. Well, hello. Again, just a reminder, name and address, and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Zoe Slobodnik, and I live on 754 Ferry Street here in Sedro-Woolley. All right. Plastic bags. Here are the facts. Plastic bags are known to take up less energy, water, and resources than paper bags, but they're ending up in our oceans. Paper bags require 4 times as much water to make than a plastic bag, yet water is a renewable resource. Plastic bags are made from petroleum, a non-renewable resource. The city of Sedro-Woolley can compost or recycle your paper bags, but not your plastic bags. Plastic bags do not have the same life cycle that paper and reusable bags have. At the end of the plastic bag's life in Sedro-Woolley, it ends up in the landfill because it cannot be recycled or composted. I have gone out on many walks around town and end up finding plastic and paper items, but I only pick up plastic because when it makes its way into the Skagit River or our gutters, the plastic will never break down. Plastic pollution in the Pacific Garbage Patch is suffocating wildlife in and around it, and it is also killing us. Microplastics that break down from larger plastics are eaten by almost all marine wildlife, mistaking the plastic for food. The shellfish and fish we consume now contain traces of plastic, and humans are consuming the most. When thinking of the end of its life, reusable bags and paper bags seem to be the more sustainable options. But these items take more water and more energy to produce, yet these resources are renewable. Plastic bags made from petroleum are made from a non-renewable resource. The human race is dependent on petroleum than ever before for hospitals, cars, clothes, pipes, toothpaste, and the list goes on. If the plastic bag that many people end up touching for only up to 5 minutes is thrown away, that petroleum is also being wasted. Wouldn't you want that wasted petroleum to go toward a more useful object? Paper bags can go through a seemingly endless life cycle. They can be composted and made into fertilizer to plant trees and crops, or they can be recycled and made into new paper products. Cloth and polypropylene bags can be reused for years and should be the most considered option at a grocery store over paper bags. These bags will eventually end up in the landfill, but not for many years if they are taken care of and repaired. I am asking the city of Sedro-Woolley to revisit their decision and to enforce a plastic bag ban for grocery stores and most retail establishments in town. Paper bags that are distributed by stores should have a mandatory fee of at least 5 cents, either going toward the business or the city. Not only should we be considering the environment, but we should also be considering the amount of plastic that will affect our future if we do not make a change. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zoe. I have a question for you.
Yes.
So right now in the legislature, this is probably, maybe, are you aware of the bill that they are looking at there?
My next speaker will.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
All right.
Discuss that. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyone else? Yes? Okay.
Good evening, council members. My name is Ekaterina Matsko, that is Ekaterina, and I live on 700 North Reed Street, Unit 53 here in Sedro-Woolley. The Senate Bill number 5323 in Washington State is working on banning plastic bags. Environmental groups such as Zero Waste Washington and the Washington Environmental Council are pushing our government in Washington to realize that plastic pollution is a large issue that the whole state needs to act upon. If this bill passes, it will become enacted statewide, but this does not mean that complete action would immediately take place, but it would set up the path for the legislation of banning plastic bags. Sedro-Woolley has the opportunity to act more quickly than our state government. Sedro-Woolley can act now about the plastic bag ban. When looking at examples of acting before the state government, Bellingham is the trendsetter. Bellingham enacted their plastic bag ban on August 1st, 2012. It is now 2020. but Sedro-Woolley, Burlington, and Mount Vernon have not succeeded in eradicating the use of plastic bags. Washington state legislation is already working on changes because it is now 2020 and people are starting to see the consequences of what we have done. Anacortes has also banned single-use plastic bags as well to reduce the plastic waste that ends up in marine areas and to decrease the amount of plastic that marine animals consume. It is that time that Sedro-Woolley takes a stand. Bellingham and Anacortes are enacting these bag bans for a reason: to educate and to inspire. Banning a simple plastic bag may seem annoying or boring to some, but it is truly life-changing. Young children in our community will learn about this bag ban and will continue to fight for it, even if they choose to move on to other communities. Targeting youth to make changes is the way toward a better future. Many children at elementary schools are passionate about recycling and composting for a better planet. Children seem to care more about the planet than adults do, and that is why they are so vital in communities. When they see positive changes made, it can impact their lives. This positive impact on children paves the way to keep developing and improving life on this earth. 2020 is the year when Sedro-Woolley needs to notice the plastic littered streets and make the decision whether to take action before the state creates a statewide plastic bag ban. Let's say that Olympia is your mother and you are Sedro-Woolley. You, Sedro-Woolley, have a messy room. Your mother hasn't told you to clean it, but you feel as if you want to. After you clean your room, your mother congratulates you for taking on the task yourself without having been told to do so. Small towns can create large impacts. And with the steps toward banning single-use plastic bags, our community can eagerly look forward to a greater and more environmentally stable future. Ladies and gentlemen, wonderful Sedro-Woolley community members, each one of us can make a difference. But together, we create change that can make an impact now, both in the 21st century and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely love it when high schoolers come and they state their case. I think it's powerful, and I think it is effective. So thank you for coming tonight. Anyone else for public comment? Yes?
Julia, do you want me to speak to the tourism thing now or later?
You know what, Polo, if you'd like to address the TPA now, that would be great. Or if you'd like me to call you up when we talk about it and you can give comment then, either way. You want to do that?
I'll wait.
All right. So it is 7:32. I'm assuming there's nobody else for public comment. It is 7:32, and I'm going to close public comment, and we are going to move on to unfinished business, the TPA. So, Aaron, I'll have you open, and then we'll have Paula can come up and answer some questions.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I don't actually remember when this last came to the council. I suspect it would have been about 5 years ago. And so here we are. I think we are nearing the finish line. What we're talking about tonight is the creation of a countywide tourism promotion area, which is a funding mechanism that is originated by hoteliers who have a certain number of rooms within the county. The hoteliers themselves get together and vote to be part of a TPA. Then there has to be government engagement to actually enforce the collection of the revenue and process the spending of the money. And this agreement deals with all of that. So the goal here is countywide. The revenue to be collected is approximately $500,000 per year. The purpose is tourism promotion, so countywide visitors for the day, visitors for the night, heads and beds, all of the above. The county government would be taking the lead here in administering the TPA, but through that process would utilize an advisory committee that's heavy on hoteliers and includes representation from each of the city partners who would be part of this. And I think that's probably enough for now. I realize maybe Brenda and Jermaine are the only council members who are here back in that time period. So if there are any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them. My understanding is we've heard no negativity at this point towards the TPA in Sedro-Woolley, and it seems like the issues that were raised 5 years ago, and between then and now have been addressed in this draft, and it really does look like this is poised to happen.
I would like to say, so Paula Kelly has been a part of this for many years. And Paula, if you could come up and kind of talk a little bit about it, maybe answer things. I know there's questions that people have asked you that clarify what the TPA is about. So,
I'm here primarily to answer any of the questions that the council might actually have about this, because you weren't here when your prior council voted to engage in this process. Mike Anderson was the mayor then, so that gives you some idea of how far back we need to go. Keith Wagner was on the council, and so was Rick Lemley and Hugh Galbraith and a few others. But the point of this is that we are one of the few counties left among the 39 in Washington state who have not adopted this type of a mechanism to generate revenue for tourism promotion. Our state has allotted generously $1 million towards tourism promotion in this state, which is nothing. For a long time, we were the lowest state, just below Connecticut, which had funded theirs to $1. So that shows you how much the state used to be putting in. And without this kind of a mechanism, there is very little we can do as a county. Currently, the SCEDA group, which is the Skagit County Chamber Executives Director Association, receives about $40,000 a year from the county to do tourism promotion throughout the county. It's not enough. And it leaves us with very few choices of where we can spend that money. We have invested most of it into a website, which we plan to just hand over. We're more than happy to hand it over and say, okay, you can do more with this if you have more funds. This does not affect lodging tax. This has been a big question a lot of people have. Well, how will this affect our lodging tax? If anything, it will help lodging tax grow. Because if you bring in more people to the county and they take up more heads on their beds in the various hotels, then that lodging tax will grow. That lodging tax is something that we currently receive from our two hoteliers. But thank goodness we have new hotels in Burlington that have helped us get across the number of rooms that we had to have become a part of the Lodging Tax Association, which is what will actually make determinations as to where they want to see that money put. Now, when it says legislative authority on here, and that being the county, that means that the budget will go to the county for approval, and that's pretty much what the county will have, is the ability to approve or disapprove the budget. That does not mean that they get to nitpick it, but it does mean that they would have to approve it based on the monies that we receive through the state of Washington. So I'm going to stop and see if you do have questions for me, because I'm more than happy to answer them. I've been at this for about 12 years, so.
Thank you. Any questions?
You answered all mine earlier. Yes, Jermaine called me, so. Carl, you don't have a question?
Let's do it.
I agree.
I have a question for you.
Okay, Brendan.
So in the handout it says that it's going to be marketed towards domestic and international tourism.
Yes.
How is the committee going to decide what the target audience is going to be for these?
Well, one of the things that I also serve on is the Cascade Loop Association, and I see how the Cascade Loop Association, which represents the 400 geographic miles that go around Highway 2 east to Wenatchee, north through Chelan and up to Winthrop, and then back across the Cascades and then down onto the islands. And how Annette has taken that money and how she has attended some conferences like in London and been able to actually bring back fam tours from France, from Germany, from different countries around the globe that find it very interesting that we have such a varied geographic zone. I mean, we have the Alps of our country, and we also have the sea, and we have the ferries, and we have the cruise ships. It's amazing what we have in this county that we don't currently market out to the world. And domestically, it's much easier because obviously we are going to use a lot of the funds within the money up and down the I-5 corridor, going down into California and east towards Idaho. Those are the people that will come most frequently to spend time here. Doesn't mean that we don't want to draw traffic from other areas. It will also put money into things like Burlington had a very, very strong question about soccer fields and how to market their soccer fields. That would be something that could be put into there. That would be something that looking for sports venues, that could be something for our Janicki Fields. These are all things that bring a lot of people to various events. Now, just a few years ago, we had the one where we had the state
the Little League
tournament here. And we were just overwhelmed by the response to that, and yet we managed to get very positive feedback on it. So, did that answer your question? Okay.
Okay, anyone else? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the attached agreement with Skagit County and the other cities and towns in Skagit County allowing the formation of a tourism promotion area, a TPA.
I make a motion to approve the attached agreement with Skagit County and the other cities and towns in Skagit County allowing the formation of a tourism promotion area,
Second.
TPA.
Okay. So I had a motion by Councilwoman Cornegay, seconded by Councilman Owen. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so moving on to, let's see what here, new business. Let's start with the retainer agreement for the city attorney services. So, Mr. Merriman, would you like to take this?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. At your places at the dais, I did put an agenda bill and the related contract for you to review. A little bit of background on this. With Aaron's date approaching quickly that he'll be heading west, we are looking at covering those areas, particularly in our legal services functions. One of the things that we want to do is take some time to actually look and see what our legal needs are. And right now, Aaron covers a certain amount of those, and we have outside legal counsel we use as well for labor negotiations and other types of projects. So with Aaron's departure coming up here, the mayor and I have met with a couple different law firms looking to see who can give us some interim coverage and even on a longer term, depending on what information we find out, for our legal services. And as a result of those interviews, we have selected one firm that we're interested in. It's Weed, Grafstra & Associates. They're a firm located down in Snohomish, even though they have attorneys up and down the I-5 corridor in different areas. And they have a large part of their specialty is on smaller sized cities and governmental units. Meeting with them was very impressive, and hearing what their packages that they would provide for us is good. There are a few different points I wanted to make on that. One of those is the coverage of services. What this will provide us is a comprehensive across-the-board legal service coverage. We'll be able to have an attorney that will be appointed by the firm, will be up here for our council meetings, other ad hoc meetings. They'll be able to be here for our department head meetings and spend time with staff. So we will actually have one person assigned. It won't be just picking up the phone and having to call someone we never meet, which that will be good. One of the advantages it will also let us do is, I mentioned a little bit about consolidating possibly some of our legal services that we do with outside firms. We'd rather have some of that within one firm depending on the specialty requirement that we have. So I think there's a benefit to contracting with one firm to provide that. The main thing there is really quantifying what we need, quantifying the amount of it that we need, and we can come back and have a conversation at a later time when we have some metrics and some data to look at that says what our legal service requirement is. So we've put together, or actually Grant Weed's firm put together this contract for us. I would like to introduce to you two people we have in the audience. Grant Weed from the firm is here, and Nikki Thompson as well, who would be our assigned attorney. And they have an opportunity here to speak with you or talk with you and do an introduction so you get to know them a little more.
Perfect.
Mayor Johnson, members of the council, city staff, and members of the public. My name's Grant Weed. I'm the managing partner of Weed, Grafter and Associates. This is Nikki Thompson. She's one of the 5 municipal lawyers in our law firm. We've been fortunate in the past to both have had the opportunity to work with Mr. Merriman, and we really enjoyed that relationship. But our firm has been in the business of providing municipal law services since 1968. So we have over 50 years of providing these types of services for cities and towns. This is my 40th year of practicing municipal law. It's been my passion and virtually the only area that I've worked in the law for my entire career. I want to give Nikki an opportunity to introduce herself in a minute, but if I could tell you just a little bit more about the history of our firm and what we do. We have 5 full-time municipal lawyers in our law firm, so we're not large, but this is what we do. Probably in excess of 80% of all of the legal work we do is for cities and towns and other public entities like water and sewer districts, fire districts, port districts, and so and health districts. So this is what our law firm does. We hold ourselves out as that, and we like to think that that we do well in the area of municipal law. What we like to do as a sort of a business model for our public clients, and especially our cities, is identify one of the lawyers in our firm that would be the lead attorney. It would be the person who attends your council meetings, so you'd see the same individual on a regular basis. That same individual would attend your staff meetings and be available for consult with your staff, and we think that really helps us do a better job when we're involved at that level with your staff. And so the person that we would be proposing to be the lead attorney for the city of Sedro-Woolley is Nikki Thompson. But what she also has at her disposal, and the city would have at its disposal, is the benefit of having 4 other municipal lawyers who each have some areas of special emphasis. We have, for example, lawyers in our firm that are really focused on things like Public Records Act and responses, land use, comprehensive planning, law enforcement and police services, fire services, finance, public works, and the gamut. So it wouldn't always be just Nikki who's working on your city matters. It could depend upon what the issue is, but some of the other lawyers in our office would be providing assistance on a team type basis. So with that, I'll stop here, let Nikki introduce herself, and then we'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Grant has already said pretty much everything that I would have said. But my experience most recently before coming to work for Grant was actually as a city attorney for the city of Oak Harbor. And so the city of Oak Harbor offers a lot of the same services that Sedro-Woolley offers. And so I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I have experience in a lot of different areas of municipal law. Like Grant said, I have known Doug for a number of years, and we've worked together in the past, and I am delighted to have this opportunity to assist you, and I know that our office is really committed to doing a good job for you all. I don't have anything beyond that to add, but we would be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? I know one thing that we're going to be looking at that maybe you can speak to briefly is eventually we're going to have to build a wastewater treatment plant. That's something that we've been looking at, and we're dealing with it now. We hear about it, every council meeting. So was it a $20 million wastewater treatment plant you all put in Oak Harbor? And
it's a $148 million wastewater treatment plant. It went from an activated sludge lagoon plant to a membrane bioreactor plant. And it is state-of-the-art. It's won a lot of public works awards, national level public works awards, and so actually that's one of the things that I feel very proud of being involved with in Oak Harbor.
Good. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Britton?
Mayor, I have more of questions for the staff.
Okay.
Are we allowed to talk after?
Yes.
Okay. So, Aaron, I have a question. Approximately how many hours a week do you think you spend on attorney work?
It's a little hard to separate some of that. In my mind, I figure it's about 10% of my time would be straight up legal work. But the reality is a lot of what a city supervisor does, who's been around, and I think Doug will do this as well, is really doing at least pre-legal work. Contract review, OPMA compliance, PRA compliance, just process things that are part of this job. So I'd say, about 10% is a fair number.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I know we're going to get more numbers once we start working with you guys. But I think it's good that we at least try to forecast the cost that we will incur because of this. So if we're looking at 10%, that's about 4 hours a week?
Well, yeah, although, there's some duplication here because I'm only one person, so you don't get 2 errands at City Council and 2 errands at staff meetings and 2 errands at strategy meetings, right? So, there will necessarily be more time because there will be 2 people involved instead of 1. So, that seems maybe a little light, but it's going to vary as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at about that cost, it looks like the rate was $210 per hour. Is that correct?
I believe the base fee that we quoted per hour is $200 per hour, which I think you'd find if you look around the state is probably below the average of what city attorney services that are contracted for are going these days.
Okay. So we'd be looking at about 40,000 then with that workload per year? I'm just trying to get a base number. I know we will get more information as we start working, but I think before we make a decision, we need to know the cost that we're looking at.
And maybe I can add on that, because I did the number crunching, of course, already on this, and I've budgeted from about 15 to 20 hours per month. And if we're running at that $200, I think the draft agreement in your package shows the 210 number. I think that's where that came from. But we did talk with Grant about a $200 number. So if we were looking anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a month is probably what we would run. And that cost would be spread across all the departments in the city, depending on what the work is and the nature of the services they provide for us.
Okay.
Okay.
One final question for Doug. So for our budget for this year, this was an unexpected cost that we will have to incur. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So looking at a recommendation, looking for a motion to approve the retaining of the firm of Weed, Grafstra and Associates for the provision of municipal city attorney legal services, authorizing the mayor to finalize and sign the retainer agreement.
Madam Mayor, I move to retain the firm of Weed, Grafstra and Associates for the provision of municipal city attorney legal services, authorizing the mayor to finalize and sign retainer agreement.
All right.
Second.
All right. So I have a motion by Councilman DeYoung, seconded by Councilwoman Cornegay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So second motion, a motion to appoint Nikki Thompson as the city attorney.
I make a motion to appoint Nikki Thompson as city attorney.
Second.
Okay. So, motion made by Councilwoman Cornegay, seconded by Councilman DeYoung. Any more questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Welcome. We look forward to working with you. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, moving on then to the 2019 comprehensive docket amendments. Looks like, Mr. Coleman, you're on.
Okay, so the council has heard plenty about the 2019 comprehensive plan docket. It looks a little odd on your agenda because that the 2019 docket doesn't mean a whole lot. But this is the process through which the Planning Commission has been working on amendments to the comprehensive plan and the zoning code to address accessory dwelling units. So I'm going to use the term ADUs over and over and over today as I go through this proposal. So just for some technical clarity, the memo itself is talking about three different things. So it's going to be asking for action to adopt updates to the housing element of the comprehensive plan. It'll be asking for amendments to the zoning code and administrative procedures in the Sedro-Woolley Municipal Code. And then I'm going to ask for, based on what the council decides on those, then we'll have a fee discussion. If ADUs should be permitted under what circumstances, then how will the city like to address fees? So for today, I'm going to kind of stay away from the fee discussion and just go over a detail, not blow by blow, but a somewhat in-depth overall view of what the Planning Commission has proposed. So I'm going to go over the housing element updates and the development regulation updates. And then also looking at your agenda, you probably see something about the building planning and engineering fee schedule update. That's not really related to this, but sort of related, and that's going to be a separate item on the agenda that we'll discuss after we're done talking about this for today.
Okay.
So just to clarify a few things, because I know this is like a big ball of wax, and I'm going to try to peel the layers back for you a little bit here. Okay, so the first updates are to that the Planning Commission made are to the housing element. So that's part of the comprehensive plan, and that's we're not allowed to make updates to the comp plan more than once a year. So we're trying to do all of the updates to the housing element at this time. So it was primarily focused on making updates to enable accessory dwelling units, should the City Council want to enable accessory dwelling units in the city. while we're in there, we made a couple of little cleanup changes. You may see some things that don't seem related and maybe kind of minor. We did make some non-substantive changes just to make sure that the comp plan is cleaned up and consistent with the rest of our development regulations. If you have any questions about those, I'm happy to answer them, but rest assured, they're non-substantive changes. Everything that the meat of the changes is really just to make ADUs possible in the city. So on page, where is this? On the housing elements page, most of the stuff happens on page 154 and beyond in your council memo, and that is to just mention in our comp plan that the city would like to allow accessory dwelling units. And that really is there's just a few minor changes to the housing element. It seems like it should be a big deal, but the details of how an ADU ordinance, what the rules and regulations for how a homeowner can have an ADU, those are all kept in the zoning code and in the Sedro-Woolley Municipal Code. So those changes are in the second proposed ordinance, and those start on page 163 of your council memo. And here's where all the big changes are. What I'd like to do is just go down the list of the major aspects of the ADU ordinance, and, well, maybe I should explain what an accessory dwelling unit is first. So an accessory dwelling unit, I'll just read the definition that the Planning Commission has proposed, is an ADU means a smaller secondary residential unit on the same lot as a primary dwelling. ADUs are independently habitable, clearly subordinate to the primary dwelling, and provide the basic requirements of shelter, heating, cooking, and sanitation. An ADU is separate from the existing house by detachment, or if attached, by a solid wall construction. There are two types of ADUs. A, garden cottages or detached structures. Examples of these include covered garages or new construction, something that's not physically attached to the actual main house, what we call the primary dwelling. And then accessory suites are attached to or part of the primary dwelling. Examples included like a converted living space, a basement or attic, attached garage, or an addition that is attached to the primary structure. Under the proposed regulations that the Planning Commission has recommended, they're recommending that you can have it attached or detached. Some communities make a distinction between the two and somehow feel that one has more impact than another. The Planning Commission didn't find that there was any more significant effects to a detached ADU than an attached ADU. So under these proposed regulations, both would be allowed. So the basics of the ADU ordinance would be that one accessory dwelling unit would be allowed per lot, and an ADU would only be allowed on any lot that has only one primary dwelling unit. So if somebody has a duplex, they would not also be allowed to have an ADU on their property because they already have two units. That was the thought there. And the Planning Commission was trying to make this as reasonable and understandable as possible too. If you all recall, and for the benefit of the public that maybe hasn't been part of this conversation so far, the point of the Planning Commission addressing this issue was that the state is looking at regulations that would require cities to allow ADUs. So it just seemed, speaking for the council in a sort of way here, the council wanted the Planning Commission to address this issue before the state came down with rules that said you have to do it this way. So the council wanted the planning commission to study rules and have public hearings and hear from the public and really study the issue inside and out and come up with regulations that if the city's going to have ADUs, we want to be able to do it in a way that fits for Sedro-Woolley residents and has the least impact on the neighborhood around where ADUs would be allowed. So, again, one ADU per lot, only one primary unit per lot. They could be attached or detached, and the maximum size would be 800 square feet for an accessory dwelling unit, or up to 66% of the primary, whichever's smaller, is the way it's written. One parking space would be required for all ADUs, and that would be in addition to the 2 that would be required for any primary dwelling. So if you have an ADU, you'd be required to have 3 on-site parking spaces. And ADUs would be required to be owner-occupied. That makes makes the ADU regulations a little bit more complicated, because now if we're going to require that people that own the lot live either in the ADU or in the main house, now we have to have a way of making sure that that owner does live there and have an ability to maintain this regulation. So a permit would then be required to have an accessory dwelling unit, which means if somebody wanted to have an ADU, they would come to City Hall, to the Building and Planning Department, and apply for an accessory dwelling unit permit. And then they would be required to have building plans to satisfy, to show that the units are separated per the way the code is, and that they have basic fire life safety requirements. So they need to be safe. They need to meet building code. And then there'll be an administrative and a permit fee for that, and then there needs to be a mechanism to make sure that if the property owner moves, that the ADU is properly addressed by the new owner, or if or to address if the property owner sells the property, then the new owner would have to follow the same rules or not have an ADU. And if the property owner moves and tries to rent both units, then this code addresses what the city would then have to do to make sure that everything meets city code, which basically the planning department would have to contact them and say, it appears you're not living here anymore. You either need to remove the ADU or come move back. Which gets a little complicated, but the details are in here, and I want to make sure that the council understood that the Planning Commission did address all of the situations that were envisionable.
John, I have a question regarding the parking. Is that off-street parking, or can they park on the street as well?
It would be off-street parking.
Okay.
Or on-site parking.
On-site, okay. Thank you.
No short-term rentals would be allowed, which means you cannot use the house or the ADU as a VRBO. It used to be VRBO, but now apparently if you watch the commercials, they call it VRBO in the commercials, which is kind of funny. Or Airbnb. So this was intended as a means to provide housing. And so short-term rentals aren't providing housing, they're providing vacation rentals and a place for non-residents to come and go. And the Planning Commission didn't want to get into all of the details of regulating short-term rentals. If the council wants to allow ADUs to be short-term rentals, then we'll need to have a different discussion about it. But the Planning Commission recommended that no short-term rentals be allowed on any property with an ADU.
And what defines a short-term rental?
A short-term rental, as the new proposed definition in section 1704.030, means a lodging use or other than a hotel or motel in which a dwelling unit or portion thereof is provided to guests by short-term rental operator for a fee for fewer than 30 consecutive nights. Dwelling unit or portion thereof that is used by the same individual or individuals for 30 or more consecutive nights is not a short-term rental.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
You can have, somebody sign a lease for 2 months and, turn people over that way. That wasn't seen as quite as much impact as, a different tenant every weekend. Also, to address some of the crowding issues of, these ADUs are intended to be small. They're limited to a minimum size of 205 square feet and up to 800 square feet. So, because that's fairly small, the Planning Commission recommends that no more than 4 persons per unit are allowed to dwell in one of these units. There's aesthetic requirements, such as, where the front doors are, and the Planning Commission wanted to address if somebody has, like a metal building in their backyard, those corrugated metal that was put up as a pole building that was intended as a shop, to something like that would have to be improved aesthetically to look more like a dwelling unit than a backyard shop, a garage. So there's some design standards, some fairly minimal, not a whole lot more than what we typically require for single-family houses in a planned residential development. And it gives the planning director some ability to, if somebody's trying to do something nice, but it doesn't meet our design standards, we'll still allow that. What we're really trying to do is prevent, 4 walls that look like a shop and dress it up a little. And you'll see also in under section 23 that the owner of any accessory dwelling unit may, well, this is our amnesty clause. So this is to address ADUs that are already in existence. They would allow property owners to that maybe built one without a permit in the past, whether or not we know about it, or one that we might have been done in the 80s, and we know about it, and we're billing them for 2 separate utilities. It allows the program for them to apply for an ADU permit and bring it up to legal, so that we know where they are, and there'll be kind of no harm, no foul. So if somebody says, okay, yeah, I built this unpermitted ADU 15 years ago, but I'd love to, get the monkey off my back and stop worrying about somebody finding out about it, and just there'd be no harm, no foul. We would go through the same program of requiring the dwelling unit to be safe. So there would be an inspection to make sure that it meets basic fire life safety, and then pay some fees depending on what the city council wants to do about fees should the ADU ordinance go into effect. And you'll see in that section that there's no specific date on the amnesty clause. What the Planning Commission was imagining is, for 1 year after the passage of the ADU ordinance, then people can come in for that amount of time. Maybe the council wants to make it 6 months, but I didn't fill in a date on this because we don't know what date this passes, should it pass, and so we want to set that date from the time that it's passed. That's pretty much it. We then would allow ADUs in only certain zones. So the ADUs would be allowed in the residential 1 zone, which it doesn't, there's not actually any in the city limits right now. There's an R1 zone up in the urban growth area should it ever annex. ADUs would be allowed in the R5 zone, which makes up the bulk of our residential zoning, and for the most part, this would be, the R5 zone exists north of John Liner Road. That the bulk of that area is zoned R5, and that's minimum lot size 8,400 square feet. So that's our larger lots. ADUs would be allowed in the R7 zone, which makes up the bulk of the main old Sedro and Woolley part and up to John Liner. The minimum lot size in that zone is 6,000 square feet, although many of the lots in the older part of town were platted at 4,800 square feet. So those are existing lots that are allowed. For those of you that live in that area, you also know that a lot of people over the years have acquired a lot and a half or 2 lots or 3 lots. So there's a variety of sized lots down in the R7 zone. And then and that's it. That is the description of where the ADUs would be allowed and the ADU proposed regulations. I went through that very fast. The Planning Commission has been working on this, I think, since April of last year, and took maybe 1 month off from working on this. So even though it sounds like there's not a lot here, it was very well studied. If you looked at the spreadsheet on page 199 of the council memo, it's easier to look at electronically because if you print it out even on an 11 by 17 sheet, it's really tiny font. We looked at several different jurisdictions and how they addressed ADUs, and each of these topics that are reviewed, we looked at and cataloged in that matrix how other cities have addressed these specific topics, including fees. Fees are all over the place. The City Council has the ability to set fees how they see fit. Procedurally, I expected a discussion and questions today. The City Council and Planning Commission are having a joint work session on March 4th. That's next Wednesday. I'm going to leave a spot on the agenda for the council to ask any further questions about this topic and to have that would probably be a good time to really get into the details of fees. If the council's leaning towards adopting this ordinance, that'd be a good time to talk about that. And staff did make some recommendations in this memo about fees based on some data that the Public Works Department, primarily Mark Freiberger, found from other jurisdictions on their sewer studies and traffic studies. But we can address those details at that meeting. And then, since that's a study session, we don't like to pass anything, so I'm not expecting the council to make any motion to pass the ADU ordinance at the March 4th. We would come back for a second and a half read, third read, at the March 11th City Council meeting.
Okay.
Any questions?
I guess I just would have a comment. It gives us a chance to really delve into this and dig up some questions so that when we're with the Planning Commission, we can ask them at that point.
Yeah, I think, that study session is timed pretty well to give the opportunity for the council and the Planning Commission to talk about any of these things, and it gives us, the less formal venue for the council to sit around and talk about fees specifically. And
right.
Debate it.
And as it stands right now, that is all that we have, March 4th, so it gives us lots of opportunity to have some real good, robust discussion regarding this. Are there any questions for John now? Yes?
Could I ask one, since we have Chief Klinger and Chief Tucker in the room as well? Do the ADUs have the same address as the primary residence?
The addressing is done through the Building Planning and Engineering Department. There are several ADUs out there, huh? Address it here. Yeah, it is addressed in your document.
That was a deep in the weeds detail I didn't go over, but it is addressed in here under number 21. The address of the ADU shall be the same as the main house with a B added to the end of it. So you can tell that, the main house might be like 1320 whatever street, and the ADU would be 1320B.
Which is concurrent with what's out there today.
Okay. So you guys don't have any concerns that getting calls to these places, you can differentiate between the two pretty easily?
We're finding them now.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, anyone else? If not, okay, well, we'll go on then to the updates on the building, planning, engineering, and fee schedule. So, John, back to you.
Okay, let me pull out my other memo here.
He's got a stack of books here.
Okay, so the building, planning, and engineering department maintains a fee schedule of all of the fees for all the various inspection costs and permit fees and pretty much everything that somebody submits a permit for. So we update this from time to time, and this was last updated at the beginning of 2019. We received a request recently from a project proponent who wants to submit the building plans for a project before they submit the building permit. So the way a building permit typically works is they submit the building permit, and then our plans examiner will review it to see if it meets code. If it does, he stamps it approved, and we issue the permit, and they pay the fees for the building permit. When they drop off the building permit, they pay a plan review fee, which is a certain percentage of the projected building fee. It just got a little tricky if somebody wants to submit their building permit plans for Tony, our plans examiner, to review, but doesn't pay him for it. He's doing work, and then they decide that they don't want to do the project, or if they decide that they're going to do it in another city, he's already done all of their code review for them, and we're just wasting our time on a project that doesn't happen. So in order to assist people who would like to submit something ahead of time, get some pre-review, we've created in our fee structure the ability to do so. So it would be a pre-review fee of 10% of the projected plan review fee. This enables Tony to review something, submit comments back to them, and it, for the applicant, it speeds up the process because, if they only have 90% plans, they can get it reviewed, get some comments back, and then finish up and get it in earlier than if through the normal process. We don't anticipate seeing this happen a lot, but we do anticipate, we know somebody wants to do it. So we did enable, this would enable that fee. In addition to, so while we had the opportunity to relook at this fee structure, we just updated some of the other things in here. The engineering department requested some changes to update, their current fees. Things get more expensive as with staff cost increases, and so a few of these have been updated also. I've also put in here the recommended ADU fee. I would not pass this unless the ADU passes, but I wanted the council to see what it would look like if it was in here. That's kind of all I got on this.
Okay. So this is a first read. believe that's what I saw. No
Yes.
action required tonight. Are there any questions for John? Okay. If not, then I suppose this is something that we can also bring. Are you wanting to discuss this as well at the March 4th, or?
The only thing that I would want to discuss at the March 4th would be and it wouldn't take long, just to discuss, if the council wants to pass the ADU ordinance, then we would need to update this fee schedule to include an ADU application fee, permit fee.
All right, but we'll be making that decision actually probably most likely on the 11th, so we can actually look at this again on the 11th, correct?
Absolutely, and so I, even in the resolution, I suggested that it be go into effect after the 11th.
Okay. All right, so is there anything else, John, that you want to add?
You want me to keep talking?
No, I'm just... Okay.
I'm good, thanks.
Are there any questions for John? If not, looking down the schedule, it doesn't look like there's anything else. Is there anything for the good of the order?
Mayor Julia, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm still learning how to work on the council, but regarding public comment, when is the chance for the council to talk about what was mentioned?
As a rule, we don't talk, no.
Is there a reason for that?
But there is, so the option of having the opportunity to get name and address is that you can then contact them afterwards and talk to them. Yeah. Yeah.
Mayor Johnson, thank you. I understand the roof is about to be applied to the library, is that correct? And that the contractor is still on time. Is that correct?
I would have to double check on what phase the roof is in. I haven't been over there this week. We didn't have our normal Tuesday construction meeting. So we will be over there Tuesday of this next week to find that component out. Right now, they are a couple of weeks behind schedule due to the weather issues we had. We actually met today with our partners at the Regional Library District and went over that very topic, and we'll be speaking with the contractor on that on Tuesday. Our goal is right now, over the long term, we're about 50% to 55% of completion on target date, and is to see where we should be at this time and see if we can absorb those couple of weeks of time between now and the end of the schedule. So we'll be having that conversation to make sure we're not just adding a change order to increase that time. We want to put a little pressure on the contractor to make sure that gets done. They find efficiencies to do that.
Thank you for that, Doug.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
John.